You're in for a fucking treat today. Not because of this video, though I hope you will enjoy it. It's probably going to be one of the longest ones I've ever made and potentially will ever make. No, the reason you're in for a treat is because I'm going to introduce you to the best bad movie you've never heard of. Now, I love bad movies in their own way. I have my own small collection of them, including Alan Quatermain in the Temple of Skulls, Dino Croc vs Supergator, and my personal favourite, aside from the movie I'm going to talk about today, Boa vs Python, which features the amazing description: when a gigantic python gets loose on a private reserve, the FBI must release an equally large boa to track and capture it, which raises so many unanswered questions in one sentence than anything I have ever seen on the back of the DVD. However, in my opinion, King Among the Bad Movies is a film very few people have ever seen, which is a huge shame. Allow me to introduce you to Death in Ventnor. Before we really get into the movie, I feel like I should give you some background on the filmmaker. It's directed by David George, who goes by the screen name Lewis George, under his production company Utility Films, who also acts in the movie as the main character Colin, and has gone on to mostly make banal pseudo-documentaries about things going on locally on the Isle of Wight, like this one about a local church that was saved by turning it into a community space, and also some incredibly disturbing conspiracy theory nonsense featuring controversial psychiatrist Dr. Bob Johnson.
A lot of people will say, well, it's the drug companies pressing it. Who prescribes the drugs? The doctor writes the signature. And so they know this. So they get onto the doctor and they persuade the doctor that these are wonderful drugs. They're antidepressant, they're antipsychotic, they're like antibiotics. Rubbish. There's no evidence. All the evidence is against.
Which features this disclaimer for legal reasons, but also this glowing recommendation and plug in the description, so it's not exactly subtle. It's clear that the director has clearly grown and improved, and has at some point gained access to a drone, as a lot of the filmmaking in the newer stuff is actually pretty great and very good looking, and unlike Death in Ventnor, always in focus. One of the only bits of evidence that this movie even exists, other than the trailer, which is great.
Oi.
This interview on a website called offscreen.com, which is surprisingly detailed and provides a lot of interesting information, some of which I'll go over now. First of all, it's damned by faint praise, in which the writer calls the film a locally made gangster comedy that has its heart in the right place. That's pretty brutal. It then goes into detail about the various ways in which this movie was really a passion project for everyone involved, and most of the people who worked on the movie were friends of one of the two main cast members, which is honestly incredibly charming. It was made for £2,000, which I would call impressive, except that Who Killed Captain Alex, potentially the greatest movie of all time, was made for around $200 by one guy and a few of his mates in their village in Uganda, and in comparison this movie is pretty tame.
Bastard!
You go out! Also, the director specifically mentions that there's only one shot in the entire movie that has any meaning beyond purely function, which is not exactly encouraging. The article is actually pretty interesting, and I would really recommend reading it, so I've left a link in the description as always. The movie was praised by local audiences. I would hazard a guess that a major reason behind which was because people in both Southampton and Ventnor, the two places the film was shown to audiences, wanted to see a movie in which their hometown played a major part, and was subsidised and supported by City Eye Southampton. Here's me demonstrating The Office, along with these other organisations featured in the end credits, for which they should bear both the brunt of the shame and the honour for having created such a, well, to call it a masterpiece would be very strange, I admit, but it's certainly something. I would talk more about how and where to find this movie for yourselves, but the problem is that you can't, not even illegally, and that's part of the charm, at least for me. As far as I'm aware, I have one of the only copies of this film, and the only reason I have it is because my parents were on holiday in Ventnor at the time it was showing and bought a DVD they were flogging at the premiere on a whim. description. I legitimately spent about an hour trying to find either a link to find the DVD or a streamed version anywhere online, and I couldn't. The production company obviously doesn't want anyone seeing it because it's nowhere on their website, now defunct. Their Vimeo page, which shows off all of their other films, including the unhinged conspiracy nonsense, has no references to it at all, and when I reached out to them on Facebook, they responded by saying that they would only be interested in speaking about work they had done since then, and didn't answer any of my questions around potentially getting a link to it somewhere the movie can be viewed or purchased. Now, I fucking love this movie, as I'll now demonstrate, but I want it noted that I tried desperately to share it with you in its entirety, but wasn't able to. If anyone finds any copies of it anywhere online, or even if they happen to have one, I'd be more than happy to put that link in the description as well, and if anyone from Utility Films ever watches this, please let me know if there's anywhere I might have missed, that I can direct people both who watch this video and my friends and family to find copies of this movie, and I will be more than happy to put it as the top link in the description, and as a card or something. Okay, that's enough preamble. Let's get warmed up for talking about the movie by having a look at the DVD, which is amazing. The box art appears to literally be a landscape picture that's been stretched out to make it portrait, and as a result everything is stretched beyond belief. The proportions are utterly ridiculous, and the font makes it look like there's a printing error. The back of the box is just this rather boring white background with black text affair, though of particular interest is the content. I can hardly judge this movie based on the DVD box, now can I? Yes, I can, but that's not the point. So just before we dig in, let's read how the production company describes its first film. The tagline is classic bad movie, although I'd like to point out that ecstasy is never mentioned in the entire movie. It's just referred to as pills, and also that the only people who refer to pills as ecstasy are old people who've never heard of any of its street names or the plethora of party drugs that have come along since the 80s. Also, I love that it's referred to as a quantity rather than a shipment or something. A quantity could mean anything, and I suspect that the main reason it's so vague is because the amount of money that pills are worth is brought up multiple times, and the director had no clue what the street value of ecstasy was at the time. The rest of it is pretty standard, a fairly humorous brief description of the plot, a couple of quotes, one from that off-screen interview I mentioned earlier, and one from a local blog, and a thanks to City Eye Southampton. All fairly standard. The actual disc is a little boring, but not overly so, and I'd rather it be boring than try to be interesting like the cover. Are you ready for this? I hope so, because it's time. I'm going to go through this chronologically with you, which is something I usually don't like to do because I like to have an overall point I want to make, but on this occasion I will make an exception because the likelihood that you have or will ever watch this movie is pretty much zero at this point in time, and the point I want to make is how much I love this movie. So the movie opens with this nice peaceful panning shot of Ventnor seafront, finishing on this building showing that we are in Ventnor. Bonus info, that building is, or was when I was last there, actually a sewage processing plant and sometimes smells like literal human shit, and transitions into this title shot using stock effects. We then get introduced to our main characters, Colin, played by the director, and Billy, played by the director's friend, who used to share a cell together in prison. No idea what they were in for, but presumably crimes.
This is Billy. Alright. He come out this morning.
As Billy shows up uninvited to Colin's house since he has nowhere else to stay. This is the first time we get the introduction of the film's soundtrack, which appears to consist of maybe 3 or 4 distinct pieces of music, but really likes this one I'm about to demonstrate, which is put into every situation it realistically can be, especially situations in which it doesn't belong. Here, it's used over footage of Billy sitting on the train,
I found a new
whereas elsewhere it's used as intense chase music. Also, despite the opening shot of Ventnor and the title, the first bit of this movie takes place in Southampton, and a lot of the movie is just driving around the Isle of Wight, not just Ventnor, although technically the deaths do take place in Ventnor, so there's that. There's a great scene in which Colin, Billy and Colin's wife Cheryl sort of bicker, and Colin shows himself to be a pretty aggressive, borderline abusive partner.
He's not staying here.
Did I say that? I'd like to though. It's nice.
Just one word of warning though.
I said he's not staying here.
There's always the risk of losing the view if it clouds over.
You can stay tonight.
Evenings in many
One night.
can be spent at your hotel complex.
On the sofa.
You'll often find
Cheers, Colin.
bars and a variety of shows to entertain guests. If you're on holiday with children or just don't feel like going much further, this should easily fulfill your needs. After a fortnight though, you may wish to vary your evenings up a little and visit some of the local bars and
You had anything to eat? No. Get him something to eat. Ah, nice one. Cheers.
Fun fact, in the off-screen interview, the director says he originally had this relationship set up as a hilarious, abusive relationship, including comedic domestic violence, but decided against it in the end because he realised that domestic abuse isn't as funny as he originally thought. Anyway, she's against Billy staying, but Colin insists that he can stay for one night. There then follows a long, boring scene of them sitting eating crisps and watching TV, which fades out to the next morning. Billy's woken up by an incredibly poorly integrated toilet flushing sound effect,
You're up early.
and the three of them end up going to visit Colin's son, who's in a care home on the Isle of Wight, in Ventnor in fact. Spoiler alert, this is where the death happens.
Well, can I come with you today?
Ask her.
Cheryl,
What?
can I come with you today to the Isle of Wight?
Fuck knows, ask him.
Is that alright then?
It's what, alright?
If I come with you?
I don't give a fuck.
Right. Right. Right, thanks then.
We get some of the only character building in the movie here, where Billy talks briefly about his time in care, and when I say briefly, I mean...
I was in care.
Yeah.
There's this amazing bit where Colin explains the Isle of Wight, and it's 100% accurate, as anyone who's ever been there will know.
So what's it like then? This Isle of Wight place?
What do you mean?
Well, what's it like?
It's like an island. It's got seal round it.
Well, like England?
If you like.
England, England.
People go there on their holidays. There's thatched cottages and that. Old people.
Never been on an holiday.
There's a surprise.
Then we get introduced to the other set of characters and subplot, which eventually ends up causing the conflict and the second half of the movie. Probably the two best characters in the movie are in this subplot, three if you count the lobster mentioned in the tagline. This one guy in a leather jacket and the mob boss. Anyway, this guy, Gareth, apparently got given a load of drugs to sell by the Ventnor Mafia, but either lost them, took them all, or sold them, kept the money and spent it. But either way, he now owes the mob money.
Harry wants to see you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What's that about then?
I don't know. Or I do. Pills. That's right. Now let me get this straight. You had £4 worth of pills, or rather, Harry had £4 worth of pills, and he gave them to you to sell them for him. And he's a little bit concerned, because the pills have all gone, and he don't seem to have the money. And I said to Harry, I said, I bet you I know what he's done. I bet he's taken them all himself. Foolish. Very foolish. So that's why Harry wants to see you. Now.
So, how do you like lobster?
Harry is fantastically overacted, but this guy is the only good actor in the entire movie. He genuinely sells his performance as intimidating henchman pretty well. This whole drugs thing is confusing because I'm assuming that this is the ecstasy the DVD box mentioned, but the Isle of Wight is populated mostly by rich old people. It's not exactly party central, so who's buying the pills? The Isle of Wight is the place people retire to if they can afford it, not where everyone goes partying. The only exception I can think of is that the island does host a couple of music festivals, so it's possible that Gareth was supposed to break into one of these, sell the drugs and get out, but was caught and the pills were confiscated by security. That's the only plausible explanation I can think of, but no one mentions any festival, so it's a bit of a stretch I'm making just to be charitable to this film. Anyway, they go see Harry, head of the local mob, but first we have to have some genuinely terrible travelling music. Harry is the fucking best, because he's the only one allowed to act like he realises what kind of movie he's in, and it's great.
Gareth, do you know Whistler's mother? No? Well, this is my mother.
Boss, it's a masterpiece.
Do you think so? I mean, do you really think so?
Aye, it's better than your last one.
My last one?
Of your mom.
My mother?
Your mother.
My mummy?
Yeah, your mummy.
Exactly. Gareth, how is your mummy?
I don't know.
Oh, she had such high hopes for you. Where did it all go wrong? I mean, here we are. You have to decide who to steal from. And no one ever steals from me.
And we meet Derek, and he's used in some kind of weird intimidation scene where Harry, holding Derek, sort of rolls towards Gareth on an office chair.
Have you been to see Baz?
You mean Baz in hospital?
Everyone calls him that these days.
He's been there a long time.
This is how he got there. Tim?
Derek!
Oh, and also the sound design in this scene is fucking amazing. So Gareth decides to rob a post office to pay back Harry is the point of this scene. Back to our protagonists, we get a lot more bickering between Colin and Cheryl about how their son is weird and an arsonist.
Why is Kieran weird?
He's not weird. He's a little angel, that's what he is.
You just like setting fire to things, buildings and that.
He can't help it. He's just...
Weird.
Them people was already dead.
I know, but setting fire to a crematorium ain't exactly normal, is it, Cheryl?
There's then this nothing scene in which the people who run the care home sort of argue and talk about stuff and characters who aren't important, and make light of mental illness and child molestation whilst mocking people who did degrees in sociology, because that's not at all what one might need working at a children's home.
How dare you try to undermine me?
I'm not trying to undermine you.
I am the manager of this team.
Acting manager by default.
Because of the problem with Morris.
Oh, the what? Come and sit on my knee and tell me about your problem?
That has never been proven.
Yeah, well, it's going to be next week.
Can we just, We can't just, Have you been eating my hobnobs?
Certainly not. Well, I may have inadvertently.
Well, don't.
Can I help?
I doubt it.
Well, it's just, I did like my dissertation.
Dissertation?
Yeah, on conflict resolution.
Conflict resolution.
Yeah, like team building.
Team building?
I wrote a conflict resolution model based around polarity and balance. It's all about expanding collaborative concepts. It's like critical mass diversity, through the paradigm of monosociality.
And have a reference to The Shining, because why not?
Hello, Chantel.
We don't like you. We don't like you. We don't like you.
We meet this social worker who is an incredibly minor character and basically only exists so the writer and director can have a go at people with anxiety.
Did you wake up this morning and think, yes, I can? Well, yes, you can. Breathe in, breathe out.
I get that the joke is that the kid is kind of scary and traumatized her, as we later see, but it just comes across as really mean-spirited. This whole movie seems to have a problem with mental health as well as the way it's diagnosed and treated, but doesn't really have either the balls or the expertise to actually explore that idea, so it just contents itself with having characters say stupid or shitty things about it. As expected from someone who believes that antidepressants are a conspiracy dreamt up by Big Pharma, as someone whose life was saved by antidepressants, I would like to take this opportunity to say fuck you to anyone who genuinely believes this utter shit. Even Jordan Peterson, who shares a love of lobsters with the director of this film, acknowledges that they work. And he's wrong about everything.
Kieran is doing really well. His diabetes is nicely stabilised and he's using his Novapen properly now. I know that you and he's seen Mr. Armstrong, our psychologist, and he thinks, although we don't like to label our children, that in addition to his transgressive pre-psychopathy, he has what we call ADHD.
What's that then?
Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
What's that then?
Well, it's when children become overexcited, have trouble concentrating, and it makes them badly behaved.
I've got that.
No, only children get it.
So what happens when they grow up?
I don't know. I am a children's social worker.
So what do you do then? Give him pills?
Yes, he is on medication.
What sort of medication?
It's called Ritalin.
And what does that do?
Calms him down. Makes him more sociable.
Just as an aside, this "shut up you twat" clip is genuinely funny, and I'll be using that clip as much as possible in future.
What, like lager?
Shut up, you swat.
More hilarious domestic abuse comedy. Can't get enough of that.
His behaviour has improved a lot.
Why? Has he been getting out of order?
He had been behaving inappropriately.
Like what?
Swearing a lot, damaging his room, and setting fire to things.
Give him a slap.
We don't do that, Colin.
I will then.
You can't.
Why not? I'm his dad.
Yeah, we got rights too as well, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
You are not allowed to smack your children.
I don't see why not. Never done me any harm. I've turned out all right.
Hardly.
Do you want some?
Fuck off.
Please. Isn't helpful.
My dad used to hit me. All the time. And me mum.
He used to hit your mum.
No, she used to hit me and all.
We meet Kieran, who appears to be some kind of psychopath.
So would you like to see Kieran now?
Yeah, all right.
You are a fucking muppet. Did you hear me? I said you are a fucking muppet. Show some fucking respect.
Kieran! Your parents are here!
And Billy gets sent for a walk whilst Colin, Cheryl and the social worker visit Kieran.
Why don't you go for a walk? Come back at 1 o'clock.
We haven't got a watch.
Well, ask someone then. I'm back in an hour.
Where he comes across a local post office. Which, according to the sign, isn't in Ventnor, it's in St. Lawrence, leading me to wonder if the care home really is in Ventnor, but let's leave that for now, and see that they have cash.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that, dear. We've been rushed off our feet all day. It's pension day. It's the same every week.
Right.
And buys a Crunchy for 29p.
What can I get you?
Yeah. I'll just take a crunchy, please.
That's 29 pence, please. Are you on holiday?
No, just a day trip.
Which, what the fuck? Seriously, even in 2010, I doubt any chocolate would have been that cheap. He returns to Colin and suggests coming back next week and robbing it.
Hey, Colin. Come and have a look at this.
What?
Round the corner.
What round the corner?
A post office.
A post office?
Yeah, a post office. Fuck me. Post office. Well, every Monday's when they deliver the pension money. There's only a little old woman in charge.
Really?
Yeah. She said every Monday's when they're busy. It's pension day, isn't it?
What are you suggesting exactly?
Well?
What do you reckon then, Colin? Interesting?
I'll tell you when it's interesting.
They start to plan the heist, and we get this line about Billy being able to steal any car he puts his mind to.
Map.
Yeah. Never really understood him, me.
There's a surprise.
I understand cars, though. You know, nicking them. I've not made a car yet that I can't get into. It's a job, innit?
Yeah.
This is a running joke that gets more and more confusing as time goes on. Anyway, Colin is the ringleader and Billy is the getaway driver, and after half an hour, the Great Caper is on.
There. That's where we were. That's where the post office is.
Right. How are you going to get away?
I thought I'd wait for a bus.
You're going to need a car, Colin.
Really?
Well, I could do that. I could nick a car. I could drive it. I could get you out of there.
You going to work again then, Colin?
Maybe.
With this tosser? He couldn't rob a fucking piggy bank.
How many armed robberies have you carried out, Cheryl?
Bollocks.
Exactly. So shut it.
So they need to get guns. They get them off a local pervert, who gives one of them an obviously fake one, well, it's actually an air pistol, but clearly not a real gun anyway, in a Hessian bag from Sainsbury's, no less.
There's a couple over there having it off, and the car next door's watching them. Public decency, don't make me laugh. Usual terms, Colin. Use them and it's double.
I ain't used one yet. Cheers.
Makes you fucking sick.
What about mine, Colin?
For Christ's sake.
Is that mine, Colin?
Are you taking the piss? An air pistol? What do you mean, health and safety? No, I have not done a fucking risk assessment. Fucking have him.
Can I have a go with yours, Colin?
No.
I actually don't see the problem, to be honest. Colin claims he's never had to actually fire a gun before, and most British people, especially old women who work behind the counter of the local post office in the Isle of Wight, don't know what a real gun is supposed to look like anyway, because basically no one's seen one in real life, because, you know, they're illegal. I guess it's better than day for night, but these grainy night shots look really bad. At least invest in some lights or use the one on your phone for fuck's sake. Anyway, here is where we get the obvious conflict. Gareth is going to rob the same post office as Colin and Billy at the same time, and this is where he gets given the gun he needs to carry out the robbery.
Morning, Gareth. Don't get up. Little present for you. From Harry. Bang. Don't use this. Okay?
Okay.
Sorry to have disturbed you. These girls may be used for training purposes.
Oh look, Gareth has all those miscellaneous pills on his bedside table. He's clearly a proper addict. I actually really like the Scottish bloke. He's no Robert De Niro or anything, but he's by far the best actor in this, and I love almost every scene he's in. So then Gareth shows off to this girl by boasting in the middle of this beachfront cafe that he's going to commit armed robbery in an incredibly smart move.
I tell you, I'm gonna rob that fucking post office.
You ain't got the fucking bottle.
Who ain't?
You ain't, you tosser.
I've got more bottle than you, darling.
You reckon? You'd never get away with it.
What, and you're the expert, are you?
Are you? You'd get recognised. Everyone would know.
Well, I'd wear a mask, like Mickey Mouse or something.
So what? You're going to go in there in your funny little mask and say, "Hello, old lady, give me all the money." Like she's going to do that.
Well, she would if I pointed a gun at her.
Gun?
Shh!
Bollocks, you can hold up a milk float.
I got the gun. And the ammo.
Can I come and watch?
Look, Monday morning, security van turns up with the money for the week. As soon as he's gone, it's showtime.
Showtime? You're selling tickets? Look, do you know what you get for armed robbery?
Yeah. Loads of money.
I know. It's loads of money.
LODSOVEMONE. What's they spell? Loads of money, probably.
She kinda eggs him on and kinda tries to talk him out of it. It's unclear. Get it? 'Cause he's Scottish.
Whatever you do, you don't fire it. Okay?
Okay.
All you do is stand behind me. You keep everybody under control. You listen to me. They all have to lie down on the floor. Then when I've got the money, we walk out of the building, get into the car, drive up to the ferry. Dump the car. 30 minutes later, we're back on the mainland.
Back to civilization, eh?
Yeah, if you like.
I thought it was the getaway driver. Also, the title card says not quite 12 o'clock, but the ferry takes an hour to get from Southampton to Cowes, and then they'd have to get a car and get to the post office. What I'm saying is that this is at latest 9 or 10 AM, which would make not quite 12 o'clock a bit of a stretch. Also, the ferry they keep showing is the Red Funnel car ferry, which takes an hour. Weird considering that they have no car. Not the Fast Cat, which is the passenger ferry, which takes 30 minutes. Trust me, my parents used to take me on holiday to the Isle of Wight every year as a child. I used to live in Southampton when I was at university. I know my shit when it comes to these fucking ferries. We get this sort of montage of Billy choosing which car to steal, only to reveal that actually he's pretty shit at stealing cars.
It's too blue. We'll look up this way, Colin. What about that one, Colin? It's convertible. It'd be fast.
Yeah, alright. Don't take this personally, Billy, but you are about the most fucking useless person I've ever met in my life.
Maybe this is the joke, but the area they're in now seems pretty suburban, so there must be quite some distance from East Cal Centre where the ferry actually lands. Isn't time against them? Also, the director clearly has no idea how cars are actually stolen in real life. Here's a hint, it's not like picking a lock in Skyrim. Get it? Because drugs! This was originally going to be a rant about how doing this many kinds of drugs in quick succession should have killed Gareth, or at least rendered him incapable of carrying out the heist, but unlike the director, I actually did a bit of research and asked my friend who's done an impressive amount of drugs in the past, and apparently this isn't actually all that infeasible, so I stand corrected. However, I still don't think it's a great idea if you're going to commit an armed robbery in the next hour or so. Colin steals a car and the action begins, but before it does, Colin's forgotten something. Remember that, it becomes important later.
When's it going to be my turn to drive?
Later.
Right, okay, Colin. Let's do this, come on. What's the matter?
Shit. I've forgotten something.
Gareth arrives mid-heist.
Everybody down!
Give me the money now.
You heard me? On the floor, all of you!
Everybody hands up!
Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck are you? What do you want us to do?
Is this for charity?
Get down!
Hands up!
They were here first.
Shut up!
Don't try any heroics.
I'm not going to.
Good.
Good.
Oh! Fuck! Fuck!
Fuck.
Fuck! Fucking hell!
I can't see any need for language like that, thank you.
He shot me in the fucking leg!
I didn't mean it! I was in care!
No! No! No, no! Big men! Guns! The money!
One more time we feel and expect nothing
and the rest of the movie is basically just the mob chasing our protagonist through various locations on the Isle of Wight. And we finally get payoff, if you can call it that, for Billy's multiple instances of mentioning that he was in care. This one joke, and another repeat of this joke later. This soundtrack is dreadful. So yeah, they basically just steal a few more cars and run away from the mob. Oh, and Harry and Derek join the story as well.
That's the family. We haven't seen them recently, have we? No. Bless. Excuse me, Derek. My phone. Hello?
Hello, boss. We've got a problem.
A problem?
They're like lost.
Right. Let's both remain calm. Let's both take a deep breath. Now. Where the fuck are they?
It's at this point that the story starts to get incredibly muddled, and it feels like the writer didn't really know where else to go, but after a few highlights, notably Billy having a piss in a phone box,
I've got to have a waz.
Not now.
Oh, I'm bursting. Oh, shut. I won't be a minute. Oh.
Are you waiting for the phone box?
No.
Trying to get a signal on these things, they're terrible, you know what it's like. Around here it's just... Oh, nice one, mate. Cheers. Oh God, that's absolutely disgusting.
the ferry back to the mainland being shut down, and their attempt to get to Yarmouth to get another one, ignoring the hovercraft ride to Portsmouth, which is arguably a quicker journey, but let's leave that for now.
We regret to announce, due to unforeseen circumstances, all sailings have been suspended until further notice.
Yeah, mate, what's the problem?
It's a security alert. Hey? Terrorism. Terrorism? Yeah, you know, terrorists and all that. Can't be too careful.
Just how high up the Al-Qaeda is this a fucking Isle of Wight ferry?
Ain't my fault, mate.
Where are we going, Colin?
There's more than one ferry.
Yeah, well, I like the one we come over on.
There's one goes from Yarmouth.
Well, where's that?
The other side of the island.
Right, so we going there then?
Yeah. You navigate.
Colin insists that they go back to the cat home so he can steal his son's insulin, because that's the thing he forgot earlier. Did you guess, or was the suspense killing you?
We're going to the home to see Kieran. There's something I need to borrow from him. Oh, I was just passing. I thought I'd come and say hello.
What?
Where's your fucking insulin?
It's in there. It's in there, but you're not supposed to take it. It's mine.
I'll buy you some more. What is this shit? Get yourself some sweets or something.
Look, Maggie, it's obvious. Just look at the Prochaska and De Clementi model cycle of change, yes? Yes? Trans-theoretical model. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, termination.
Has anybody seen my mug? It's the one with the hedgehog on it.
Oh my god, more of this shit. Sociology is a real thing, you fucking dinosaur. Anyway, they get stuck in the home for some reason that's never explained, take hostages and have wacky piss-related hijinks, and a lot of the stuff that was brought up in the first visit pays off here in a way that could have been clever and interesting if it had been competently done, but it's not.
So what are you going to do about Keith?
Well, yes, where is he?
Where do you think?
Oh, he'll be wandering around somewhere or going to the loo.
Now, children, you know you're not supposed to be in there. Come out, please. I mean, you kids, what are you like, eh?
This is what I'm like.
Hurry up.
I can't go while you're watching.
Not watching.
It's the gun. I need to. I need to.
Go on then.
The mob arrive, the social worker from earlier hits the Scottish guy with her car, everyone dies in unlikely and stupid ways, Kieran kills a bunch of people with a crossbow he somehow has now without it ever being set up before, which apparently fires dreadful sound effects. Harry threatens Colin with Derek. We get the greatest line in all of cinema.
Just hand over the money and we'll forget all about it.
Don't wave that thing at me. I'll blow its fucking head off.
Colin? You alright, mate?
I can't stand crustaceans.
Colin shoots Harry. Kieran, who is trying to shoot Harry, accidentally shoots Colin, causing Gareth and Billy to both run off, with even more bad soundtrack and sound effects, and one final joke about Billy being in care.
Kieran! Dad? Dad.
Twats.
Colin! Fucking hell, Colin, I'm sorry, mate.
Kieran, put that down immediately.
Colin!
Kieran?
Colin!
I'm surprised.
Oh, fucking hell. Colin, I'm sorry, mate.
So sexist.
Colin, I'm sorry.
I'll try again just once more. One more time we feel and expect nothing less than an anthem from your heart. It's all been singing all the way to your grave.
At this point, we now have like 2 or 3 minutes left of the movie, including the credits, and it's at this point that we now meet this random hippie guy whose gimmick is that he was at a festival in the 70s and never left.
Where you going, mate?
Mainland?
Yeah, me too. Get in.
I've been here since the festival.
Oh, have you? Nice. When was that?
71, I think. I can't really remember.
They eventually end up at an airfield, and we get a sort of payoff for Billy's earlier boasting about being able to steal anything, but inability to actually do so when he steals a plane and flies off in it, which is weird.
Well, this ain't the ferry. Where's the sea? I'm having that. Swap. You want a lift?
I've never flown before.
That's all right, mate. Neither have I. Come on.
Like, is the joke that he can't steal cars but he can steal planes? Why was he unable to steal cars before? Why did he pretend that he could steal cars when he couldn't? Why does it work on planes but not on cars? This joke does not work on any level. And that's it. That's how the movie ends. Amazing. So that's Death in Ventnor. What a movie. There's not much more I can say that I haven't already said or else speaks for itself, but one thing I will say is that there are glimpses of great filmmaking in there. Like, this shot is quite nice, and the landscape shots are pretty, although that's more of a praise for the Isle of Wight's natural beauty than a filmmaking choice, but hey, it's something. This film would definitely benefit from a lot more focus. As it is, the story meanders, bounces around, and is generally extremely confused. Much like The Crimes of Grindelwald, it's almost like 3 or 4 movies smashed into one, and any of those 4 could be interesting on their own, but together, not so much. You could have had your serial killer in a care home horror thriller, or your standard low-budget heist movie, or your Isle of Wight road movie with either Billy and Colin, or Billy and the hippie guy at the end, or you could have had your small-scale gangster comedy movie, and this movie tries to do all of those things at once, and as a result is brought down in many ways by its own ambition. It's also very easy to see a lot of the director's personal feelings on a number of topics come to the fore, some of which are really rather objectionable, in incredibly unsubtle ways. Much like that bit in Rick and Morty.
Cute. Your sister's boss gave me a microscope that would have made me retarded.
Ooh, oh boy, Rick. I don't think you're allowed to say that word, you know?
Morty, I'm not disparaging the differently abled. I'm stating the fact that if I had used this microscope, it would have made me mentally retarded.
Okay, yeah, but I don't think it's about logic, Rick. I think the word has just become a symbolic issue for powerful groups that feel like they're doing the right thing.
Well, that's retarded.
There's a lot of charm in this movie, and the local flavour, low-budget nature of it is definitely part of that. Is it a good movie? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Would I recommend it? Yes, 100%. If you can find it, watch it. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. This movie is astonishing in a number of ways. If you can somehow get your hands on a copy, please do yourself a favour and watch this. Of course, the problem is that you have to find it first. I'm sorry to end on this note, but if you want a copy of the movie, I'm not sure what to suggest, other than maybe asking the production company nicely to make it available. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable just ripping it from my DVD and making it available. That seems unfair, not to mention incredibly illegal. So I'm going to just say this. If you want to see this movie, if I've convinced you that this is something that needs to be experienced, then please, ask Utility Films to make it available. Be nice though, they seem like good people. I mean, apart from the weird conspiracy bullshit, of course. So that's everything I have to say about the movie. I hope you do manage to watch it, so that you too can talk endlessly with your friends and strangers on the internet about Death in Ventnor, the best bad movie you've never heard of. Oh, look at me. I did a super eye patch wolf.
And I use the lobster as an example because the lobster, we divulged from lobsters in evolutionary history about 350 million years ago, common ancestor. And the nervous system of the lobster and of the human being is so similar that antidepressants work on lobsters.